Richard Steele was a man who had lived his life in control of everything and everyone around him. His empire stretched far beyond the imagination of ordinary men. He owned real estate on multiple continents, airlines that carried millions of passengers each year, technology companies that shaped the future, and media networks that told the stories of nations. His name commanded attention in every boardroom, and his fortune was so vast that people whispered numbers they could not even comprehend. For decades, Richard had been untouchable. His sharp mind and decisive nature made him feared by rivals and admired by allies. The world painted him as a symbol of power, a man who could bend the course of business with a single word. But life has a way of testing even the strongest, and Richard's test came on a rainy night along a coastal highway. The crash was sudden, brutal, and unforgettable. His car skidded on the wet asphalt, slammed into another vehicle, and spun until metal screamed and glass shattered. He survived, but his eyes did not. The doctors told him that his vision would never return. "It's gone," they said gravely. "You must prepare for a life in darkness." The news spread quickly. "Billionaire loses sight in tragic accident." The headlines cried. For weeks, his photographs appeared in every newspaper. Richard Steele stepping out of hospital with dark glasses covering his eyes, a white cane in his hand, his once commanding face now softened by what the world believed was defeat. But the truth was very different. Richard's sight had not completely vanished. He could still see faintly, shadows, blurred outlines, streaks of light against the dark. To the world, this meant little. But to Richard, it meant everything. He realized something in that hospital bed. He had been given an unexpected gift. If people thought him blind, they would reveal themselves. They would believe he could not watch them. And in that illusion, their true faces would appear. So Richard made a decision that no one could have predicted. He would pretend to be fully blind. He would walk with a cane, with the dark glasses, and let the world think he was helpless. He would sit quietly while others underestimated him, and in their arrogance, they would betray themselves. No one would be tested more than his wife, Isabella. Isabella Steele was young, beautiful, and elegant, the kind of woman who could turn heads with a single glance. When she married Richard, it was called a fairy tale. The powerful billionaire had found love again, and the glamorous woman by his side seemed to complete the picture of perfection. The photograph of their wedding had been splashed across glossy magazines, her diamond necklace catching the light, his hand firm on hers. People called it love, destiny, even fate. Richard had known, even then, that Isabella was not entirely what she seemed. She was charming, yes, but her charm often leaned toward calculation. She was affectionate, yes, but her affection came most strongly when cameras were near. He had chosen to believe that time would deepen her love, that perhaps she would grow into the role of a true partner. For years, he let himself hope. The accident destroyed that hope. At first, Isabella played her part flawlessly. She guided him through rooms with soft hands, spoke words of encouragement, and sat at his side during interviews. To the world, she was the picture of devotion, the beautiful wife standing by her husband in his hour of need. But Richard, who now lived behind a mask of blindness, saw more than anyone else. He saw her frustration when she thought he could not notice. He saw her impatience in the way she tugged his arm too quickly. He saw the cold emptiness in her smile when no one else was looking. And what he saw most clearly was her greed. For Isabella, his blindness was not a tragedy to endure with love. It was an opportunity. She looked at him and no longer saw a strong man, but a weak one. No longer a husband, but an obstacle. Behind her sweet words, she carried a thought that grew darker with each passing day. If he was gone, everything he owned would be hers. Richard remained silent, but inside his resolve hardened. He would not confront her too soon. He would wait. He would let her show her true self completely. And when the time came, he would be ready. The first signs of betrayal were small. Isabella began to spend more time outside the house. She claimed to attend charity events, luncheons, and business dinners. Richard, sitting quietly in his study, listened to her excuses with a calm expression. What she did not know was that he could smell the faint traces of another man's cologne on her clothes when she returned. He could hear the nervous edge in her voice when she explained her absences. He could even see faintly, the way she avoided looking directly at him, as though his clouded eyes might pierce through her lies. She underestimated him. They all did. Richard's most trusted aide, Ethan, had been with him for more than a decade. Ethan was sharp, loyal, and utterly reliable. He managed Richard's appointments, oversaw his business communications, and ensured the household ran smoothly. To the outside world, he was simply the assistant of a once great man who had fallen into weakness. But in truth, Ethan was Richard's right hand. Richard never told Ethan about the secret of his partial sight, but Ethan suspected that his boss was far less helpless than he appeared. One evening, Isabella brought Richard a cup of tea herself. She had never done so before. "I wanted to do something special for you," she said sweetly, her smile wide and warm. Richard nodded, lifted the cup, and tilted it slightly toward his lips. The faintest whiff of bitterness touched his nose, sharp and metallic. He lowered the cup carefully. "Thank you, my dear," he said in a calm voice, pretending to sip. She smiled again, her eyes flickering with a strange light. She thought she had begun the process of his end. But Richard only set the cup aside, waiting for her to leave the room. Later, he called Ethan quietly and ordered the contents of the cup to be tested. The results came back clear: poison. Richard's suspicions were no longer suspicions. Isabella was trying to kill him. He did not confront her. Not yet. Instead, he began to gather evidence. He hired Detective Harris, a man known for his discretion and precision. Harris followed Isabella carefully, documenting her secret meetings, her phone calls, and the man she had taken as her lover. His name was Adrian, a smooth-talking opportunist who fed Isabella's darkest ambitions. Together, they whispered plans that grew bolder each week. Poison was too slow for Isabella's taste. She wanted something quicker, cleaner, something that could be disguised as an accident. "He is blind," Adrian told her with a smirk. "Blind men fall. Blind men stumble. No one will question it." Isabella listened, her heart racing with greed. But what she didn't know was that Richard saw every shadow of her treachery. He heard every whisper. He collected every piece of proof. The mask of blindness gave him the greatest advantage of his life, the power to see the truth without being seen. And he was waiting for the moment when Isabella's greed would push her too far, when she would try to strike the final blow. That moment would come soon, and when it did, Richard Steele would be ready.